What's up, friends? Welcome back to Acting Like an Actor. I'm your host, Sophie Jordan Collins, and this week we have actress, model, and entrepreneur Rose Rosenfeld. Rose moved from Australia to pursue acting and modeling. She began her career in New York City modeling for brands such as Covergirl and later moved to LA to pursue film. Her TV and theatrical credits include Neighbors, The Last Straw, Numb, and Barry, to name a few. Rose has been able to be a working model and actor while also traveling, building a strong social media presence, and even launching various business endeavors. She's the perfect example of someone who really paved her own path in this industry and didn't let all of those external voices dictate her career moves. We chat mindset, motivation, and even discuss some darker things that happen in our industry. If you're struggling to know what to do as an actor, if you want to pursue other creative endeavors outside of acting, or if you just need an extra kick of motivation while you pursue your creative endeavors, then this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
Are you rich?
Are you famous?
What have you been on?
I don't really recognize you, and neither does my mom.
Can you laugh?
Can you cry on command?
I mean, you said you were an actor, man.
What's your backup plan? Is it shattered?
Dude, I'm just acting like an actor.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Acting Like an Actor. I'm your host, Sophie Jordan Collins, and today we are joined by...
Hi, I'm Rose Rosenfeld. Nice to meet you all.
So, Rose just spent 3 months, right, traveling the world, and I thought it would be a fun, irritating icebreaker to just hear about her travels and some of the fun stuff she did.
Living in Los Angeles, it's all kind of the same after a while. So going to, especially Japan, I spent 2 weeks there, and it was just really cool to be around the culture and the food and the people. And as I was saying, like, they're so structured and just so organized, and they operate in a different way. It's like almost robotic, which I find fascinating because, you know, in the Western world, we're kind of lazy with certain things, but over there, they're very structured and very organized. And on the contrary, in Bali and Indonesia, they're very unorganized. And
like more similar to LA or still quite different?
Well, it's still third world, so you know, they've got like starving dogs on the streets, and they've got like potholes in the roads, and nobody drives cars really. It's more like motorbikes, or it's just a very different environment. And so I don't know, it was just an interesting experience to be immersed in those different cultures.
And you were technically solo traveling for all this, right? Like, you're by yourself. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Had you done that before?
Yeah. Okay. So I moved to New York when I was 17 by myself.
Okay.
And that's when I
From where, Rose?
From Australia, from Melbourne, Australia. And that's kind of where I started. So I left Australia quite young. 17 is a baby.
You were that young.
I finished. It's kind of complicated.
Okay.
Because originally I did go to college in LA or in Santa Barbara, and then I went back to Australia, and then I went back to America. Okay. So it was kind of back and forth.
How old were you when you started college in Santa Barbara?
17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went New York, then to California?
No, so first I went Santa Barbara, and then 1 year I went and studied acting at SBCC, the City College. Then I went back to Australia, and I finished my college education there.
Oh, interesting.
And then I came back, and I went to New York, and I spent like 6 months in New York, and that's when I was working for Covergirl. So I booked a really, really cool campaign for them. It was like an organic, skin cruelty-free campaign. And so we got to go through like the streets of New York, and I was filmed throughout the whole thing.
That was so fun.
And then in Times Square was this big billboard of the whole thing. So it was a really cool experience. And then after that, I actually took a train from New York to LA.
Stop.
And that's how I moved to LA.
Oh my gosh, how long? How many days was that?
It was 4 days on an Amtrak.
Wow.
And
that's commitment.
No shower, no bed. It was just a chair.
Wow.
I did it because I wanted to be super adventurous, and I wanted to see America, so I thought it was the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But
go big or go home. If you want it, you want it.
Exactly. Wow. The problem was I booked the wrong scenic route, so I did the straight route through the US, which is so boring. It's just desert and like tumbleweeds and Amish people, which was really interesting. And so when I got to LA, I landed at like Union Station, which is where the train left. And so the first experience of LA was pretty rough I saw
I'm sure.
some pretty nasty things.
Yeah, you're like, do I actually want to be here?
Yeah, it wasn't the glitzy, glammy Hollywood that I expected.
What did you think you were coming out to LA for? Was it to pursue acting?
Yeah,
and modeling?
so acting was number one, like day one. Little Rose, she wanted to be an actress.
Yeah, because when you were 17, that was the first thing you started studying in college. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So were you acting back in Australia at all, like as a girl?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I actually started on a show over there. When I was 14, I booked a show called Neighbors, which is...
Margot Robbie!
Yeah!
Oh my gosh, I didn't know she was on Neighbors. Oh, so fun.
So everybody that really wants to be an actor has to kind of go through the Neighbors route, because that's all we had back then in Australia. And now things have changed. Now Sony has a big production house in Sydney and it's growing a lot. But back then it was just Neighbors or Home and Away, and Home and Away is filmed in Sydney, Neighbors is filmed in Melbourne. So I went to Neighbors.
Okay.
And yeah, I played a gym coach for the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, you're in a couple episodes. I do recall seeing this on your IMDb now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I was so young, but that was like my real intro into, being on TV. Oh yeah, and then I started doing pageants, which was something that, because I always loved like modeling and just being in front of the camera, and so I entered into the Miss World competition, and I was 16. And I actually became a finalist for Miss World Australia, which was really an amazing experience. A lot of cameras on me, a lot of interviews, a lot of press. I was on the news in Australia, so we had like a big segment about the Miss World pageant. Wow. And that was, I kind of felt like the beginning stages of the pressure of fame, or what it would be like to be famous. And I realized that I hated it. And it was not something that I wanted to pursue, because it's such a cruel world and people really like bash you and beat you down when you start to do well. That's what I found. So after the pageant thing, I went back to the US. Then so I was in LA and I got an agent, a manager, and I was just on the grind to pursue acting, more film, like theatrical, rather than modeling and commercial stuff. And I took some incredible classes. I trialed every class possible in LA. Yeah. And I really tried to like hone in on my skills as much as possible, and I learned a lot. I met incredible teachers, and I also learned that there's a lot of scams in LA. There's a lot of talk and no walking. 100%. So
because it is a business, as like sad as it is. Both acting and modeling are businesses, so there's a lot of people that want your dough.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the like $9.99 for a set of headshots, or if you don't have this certain look, then you'll never make it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so for a young, like, naive person coming to LA, 100%. You fall for that.
Yeah.
So I remember I went to a acting class and they were selling like $2,000 program and they'll make you a star, and I was like, wow, I could be a star. So I went to like the orientation of it and I met a bunch of people, and they were really like becoming brainwashed that they will be a star if they pay this money and go through the 6-week program. And I just saw right through it, and I was like, this isn't how it works. It's hard work. Yeah. It's knowing the right people. Yeah. It's being as persistent and honing in on your skill, and that's how you really make it.
Yeah, that's good that you realized that.
Yeah, from a younger age, because I think I could have easily drowned in like all the stuff that they push on you when you're new to this town. So
when I was 17, I paid $5,000 from Michigan to come and do one of those week-long things in LA.
No.
Yeah, I talked my grandparents into paying for it as like an early graduation present, and I did it.
Did it work? Like, did it help?
No, I wouldn't say that, but what it did make me realize, because it was like a week long of like doing acting and modeling workshops, it made me realize that this is really what I wanted to do. Okay. So for that I'm grateful, but it was not worth $5,000, and it very much was one of those like, it's called IMTA, I'll just out them, you might have heard of it, a lot of actors do it, but basically they're like, you come to this, you'll get an agent and we'll make you a star, that kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, but I fell for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't blame you at all. It's easy to do that because it's appealing and
yeah. And wouldn't that be nice if you just had to pay $5,000 and then you're on,
Exactly.
you know, a series regular on a show? Like, I would come up with $5,000 right now if that were a thing.
Well, it's funny because people that are some certain stars that are really A-listers have paid that kind of money, or I mean, next level amounts of money, like 5 million or 50 million, 50 grand or whatever. I don't know the exact numbers, but they do pay their way in.
Okay, Rose, so since, like, when you first came to America, you were doing a lot of, like, big modeling campaigns with, like, Covergirl and whatnot in New York City. Did you ever find moving to LA when you really decided, like, okay, I'm going to start pursuing things theatrically? Did you ever find people, like, it was difficult to be taken seriously as an actor because you are a model as well? Or did you not find that mattered?
Yeah, so I found that not so much not taken seriously, but people definitely segmented me into model, like she's a model, that's what she can do, and you know, she probably can't show much emotion because she's a model, which is quite the contrary. I can cry on command.
Watch her reel.
But and you look at people like Margot Robbie, who are gorgeous models. They started out modeling as well, and then you see her in I, Tonya, and it shows such a range of who she can be. Model versus, you know, whatever, grotesque face, whatever. So I think that mindset is not really accurate, but I have had a lot of feedback over the past from my agent who has said, oh, your headshots are too pretty, or this casting director says, oh, you look too pretty for this role. And it bothers me because I'm like, why, first of all, why do they even bother looking at my headshot if I'm too pretty? Second of all, there's so many beautiful actors like Angelina Jolie, Anne Hathaway. There's gorgeous women out there, so they're not too pretty. Right. So that feedback, I don't know why that was what they were saying, but it almost made me kind of want to like shave my head and be someone so different and just see what happens. Yeah. Like, I was so obsessed with this industry and being an actress at one point that I was making myself crazy. I was like sick about this industry because I wanted it so bad. Yeah. And I would say that was probably when I was in my early 20s, like from 21 to 24. I was like, if I don't make it, I'm a failure. And so I put everything into this, and I was losing relationships, I was losing friendships, boyfriends, whatever I had going on, and it was not healthy at all.
You're losing your life, essentially.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, as actors, a lot of us, I feel like, do that, but as actors, we're portraying human beings with lives. So it's interesting how we'll make our whole life about the craft of acting, but then you're not actually living life, which is what you're pursuing. So then it's like you almost have nothing to show for.
That's interesting, though, because you see actors like DiCaprio or people that are really child stars, and they are shells of themselves. Like, I've met them in person, and there's not a lot of soul and connection there, so they have lost themselves for the craft. And I think being like, you know, working in events and whatever, when you meet people in the industry that have really made it, you see that they're no longer a human. They're very dehumanized. So
that's really interesting, because you're right. They still appear human on camera, so you're right, maybe it isn't as important almost as we deem it is to have a life outside of acting. You can give your all to acting, but then you're just going to be a shell of a human being, so it's like, what do you want?
Pick your poison.
Okay, just because I'm curious, Rose, is it hard to do an American accent, or do you want to talk about how you
do that? I can do both Australian and American very well because my father's American and my mother's Australian. So as a child, I grew up listening to both, one in one ear, one in the other. And so I can kind of flip between, which is a bit of a mind twist for people that, like, if I audition, I'll do my slate as Australian and then I'll switch into American when I say the lines. And people get confused by that, but it's nice to have both.
No, it is 100%. It sets you apart, and your American accent is so strong that like you could just fake being fully American if you had to. Which is good.
Well, it's cool because I've had a lot of voiceover work, like with Amazon, which has been cool for Australians.
Yeah.
And they want Australians in the US.
Right.
And then I just actually recently, before I went traveling, I shot for an Australian food brand here in the US. And that was televised in Australia. And I was back in Australia, and they didn't even tell me, by the way, in my contract here in the US that it was going to be in Australia.
Should reach out to your agent about that, girl.
It wasn't through my agent, it was freelance. So I don't know how to
Go through
handle
the
that.
contract. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If they didn't put it in the contract.
Yeah, and my mom's friend was like, I just saw you on TV in Australia. I was shocked by that because I didn't get paid for that.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
annoying and interesting.
Anyway,
They're always pulling
Side
scandalous
note.
stuff in this business with the money.
they really are. You have to be your own lawyer. You have to be your
You
own
do.
contract
100%.
litigator. Like, you have to know your stuff
Yeah.
in business to work in this
You
industry.
do, 100%. Yeah. Because you get taken advantage of so quickly. If they didn't tell you that your image was going to be playing in Australia, they can't be playing your image in Australia if
Right.
you're not compensated for that. They owe you a buyout fee.
Yeah.
But I know you're right. It's easy for, and again, like when you want it so bad as an actor too, like especially at the beginning of your career, I feel like it's really easy to get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of stuff when I first moved to LA, like in perpetuity, just because I didn't know. And they still play some of those things too. I have an ad with Factor that plays all the time that I shot when I was 19, and they're still using it all these years later. But I didn't get compensated for it. And I signed it away in perpetuity, so that was on me. But that comes down
forever?
to
Or for like
yeah.
a year?
no, in perpetuity,
It means
forever.
forever.
So like, let's say 5 years from now, I book something really, really big, like have a big name. They can still run my Factor ad, which is kind of interesting.
That's crazy.
But that's why you have to know.
There must
the
be a way
business
to
side of things.
revoke it.
Maybe I don't care enough to go through that, but
Yeah.
it's just Factor. But
I remember I went to this was very shady. I went to a commercial audition for a sports or athleisure brand, and they had a bunch of us dressed in activewear, and it was a full-blown set at the audition, and we walked in and they had everybody sign these forms that it was basically allowing them to shoot and use the content of the audition. And none of the actors in that room read through the contract. And I kind of started getting smarter over the years of being here and realizing the little weaseling that they do. And so I called my agent because she was a part of this one, and I sent her screenshots and I said, what's going on with this? Like, should I sign? And she said, absolutely not. They're taking advantage of all you actors there, and they were using the audition as their commercial. So all the actors were being used for free, and there was no actual like shoot after that.
That's crazy. I'm gonna ask you after this what brand that was. That's really messed up. Rose, what is the biggest struggle you would say pursuing this business?
The biggest struggle is keeping the right mindset. I think having a strong backbone and a strong mind is so key to this, because like I said, you can get taken advantage of, you can lose yourself, you can think your world is gonna end if you don't book a role. And the amount of rejection that we get is astronomical, and it does hurt over years. Like, it degrades your confidence. 100%. And so if you allow that to if you allow that to become a part of like who you are, then it can really damage you in the long term.
No, that's really good. I think something too, Rose, that actually people notice about you, and it reminds me just thinking of what you said about how you knew, like, you didn't fall for that acting scam. Like, you've always had a strong sense of self, even from the beginning. So I'm curious, is that something that you feel like comes natural to you, or do you have to work towards having that strong sense of self?
I think I'm lucky to have this like curious mind, and so I don't really take no, like a plain no, for an answer. I always like do my own research, and also I've traveled a lot, and so having a perspective of the world and meeting people that are, you know, from all walks of life, it taught me a lot about who to trust and not. And I still make a lot of mistakes, but yeah, it definitely comes with experience in life and just like doing the most, which I always strive to do. Like, I'm not one to sit at home and watch TV ever.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, me too. I know. It's like a struggle sometimes when people are like, what do you watch? I'm like, I don't have time to watch.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even trying to be like, but like genuinely.
Genuinely.
I just don't.
Yeah.
And if I try to, I just get anxious because I'm not doing anything, so. Okay, let's talk, if you're cool, a little bit about like social media.
Okay.
She does have a little bit of a social media presence, and I know you do some brand deals and things like that. So I'm curious, do you feel like social media affects your acting and modeling career at all?
I think social media can help it in many ways because, you know, when you're looking at castings, they ask how many followers you have now, which is more recent, I'd say in the past like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I would agree.
Maybe before it would have hurt the career path, but now it's definitely like, you know, it helps. People want to see that clout that you have.
Yeah.
I guess because it helps with sales. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think just being like, oh, we have Rose Rosenfeld in this movie, and then it's like all the people that follow you.
Yeah. But also it portrays a different image. So like my page is very modelly and very fashion forward and more lifestyle, whereas if I'm trying to do like a dramatic actress role, that doesn't really tie into my social media account, so that could probably hurt it a little bit. And if there is a casting, I'd rather them not look at my social media for that purpose. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. But then what does a dramatic actress's Instagram even look like? So, you know?
Yeah, I guess
I don't
no
know.
glam shots.
Yeah,
modeling
maybe.
shots. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a tough one because sometimes you'll see actors that have 0 followers or I don't know 100 followers or whatever, and very plain shots, like 2 photos or something, and they've booked a film.
Yeah, or a series regular or
Yeah.
something. I know, and it's like, where did you come from? But I will say, a lot of the times when I feel like that sort of thing happens, if you look on their IMDb, a lot of them were like acting for a lot of years before, you know.
True.
They'll have like the Law and Order credits, the like, I feel like Sydney Sweeney's a really good example of that, where when she was 22 and like Euphoria came out, everybody's like, well, where did she come from?
Yeah.
She didn't do like Instagram or anything, but if you look at her IMDb, Homegirl's been acting since she was like 13. She has a Law and Order credit, so it's like the people that kind of got into the industry a long time ago and just never pursued social media, which is interesting.
Yeah. Or even I've got a friend from Australia who started when he was 12. His name is Toby Wallace, and he's very famous now. He's on The Society, which is a Netflix series. And he's just done a new movie based off of the Beatles. So
oh, cool. He's Australian as well?
He's Australian, yeah. And he's young. He's like 26. But he had 0 followers like 3 years ago and didn't care about social media at all. He's just a very like humble Aussie guy, but amazing actor. And now he's hit all these big movies and he's doing really well. So I don't think social media had any effect on his career.
There's an interview too, one of the actors on Actors, it was Jenna Ortega and
I love watching
I love those too, and Elle Fanning, and they were talking, and Elle Fanning told Jenna, she's like, I lost a role once because I didn't have enough followers, and that just made me like, okay, if this chick's losing roles because she doesn't have enough followers, I don't know what's going on in our business. Yeah, I'll insert that clip right now. I know when she said that, I was like, dang.
I didn't get a part once for something big.
Okay.
Because, and hey, it might not have just been this reason, but this was the feedback that I heard, was because I didn't have enough Instagram followers at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And so that was a little like, okay, I mean, that I firmly don't believe in. Like, ever not getting a part.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
It must be new. Like
yeah, and like, okay, like, she's Elle Fanning, so that like blew my mind, but I was like, dang, y'all must really be like fighting for money if this is the world we've come to.
Wow.
Another thing I always think about with social media too, and like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have 1 million followers because I do think that would help in terms of booking stuff, but it's like if you pull like an Addison Rae where you're then an actor on Netflix and then it's like people don't take you seriously, and like I think it would be really hard, the type of work I want to do, like indie features and like dramatic things, if I were to do something like what Addison Rae did, you know, I think it would be really hard for her to book like a Martin Scorsese movie or like Quentin Tarantino, or for anybody to take her seriously in that realm. So I don't know. I feel like I do agree with you in terms of like, I don't really think it matters in terms of most dramatic projects.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Social media is such a fickle, strange world.
It is a
And
blessing
it's
and a
changing,
curse.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's changing a lot. It's gotten me
It
some
is.
amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, most of the bigger jobs as of lately that I've booked are through Instagram, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, it's such a stressful journey. Like, you have to constantly be on it. You've got to, it's changing all the time. People are getting so good at edits and so good at creating content that it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, and hard to stand out too, I feel like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking of modeling, Rose, do you have any tips for being confident on camera? Because you know how a lot of actors, we just want to be actors, but then it's like, you also have to do like photo shoots and like keep up your Instagram and things like that. For people that maybe don't want to be on camera, do you have any tips for them?
Look, if you're an actor that doesn't want to be on camera, then you need to be in theater and stick to theater, because every actor has to be on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're shy about that, go to class.
Yeah, truly.
That's all I got.
In a class that films you.
Yeah.
Okay, so tips for being confident for like photo shoots though. Do you have anything that comes to mind?
Really, confidence comes from within, and it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Like, I have built confidence over the years. I still have a lot of insecurities, but I've learned to work with them. For example, scoliosis is a big one, and that's something that I feel like I neglect to talk about, but it affected me a lot growing up, because I would see myself on camera and I would be super self-conscious of the way my spine looked or the way my neck was leaning in or whatever. And over the years, I've learned to adjust my posture, and I've learned to work with how my body looks and how, you know, it feels or whatever. And I've switched my mind and thought, you know what, I have this, and how am I going to work with it?
Yeah.
And it's not going away. I am who I am, so live with it and learn to love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the more you kind of talk yourself into that mindset, the better you are. And having little chats, like, I'll talk to myself in the mirror if I'm feeling down one day or I'm feeling like insecure about something, and I'll really look at myself and go, you can do this, like, you're strong, you're powerful, and just keep affirming like positive things.
Yeah.
And it works in the long term. Like, my day will be better if I do that. So
yeah, no, I love that. It's also, you mentioned like focusing on loving what you can't control. Like, you can't change that you have scoliosis, you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, like, if you don't like something about yourself and you can change it, like, go out and change it. But some things about yourself you just simply can't change. You have to learn to accept them.
And a lot of people in Hollywood will change what they don't accept, and I think it's fine, do what you want, but I think that we were born with what we were born with, and
100%.
body altering and stuff like that can really mess with someone's mind in the long term. And your mindset is everything, so the stronger the mind, the more powerful and confident you are anyway.
I know, that's true, you're right. A lot of people in LA do start altering their appearances and things.
Yeah.
Which those are also what make you unique sometimes too. I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I feel like walking around LA, like, everybody looks the same.
Yeah,
everybody dresses the same. It's like the same energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lashes, the hair, everything. Sometimes I'm like, yeah. Sometimes like I'm seeing.
And don't get me wrong, like, it is easy to think like, oh, maybe I need to do that, or maybe I should start. Like, I'll even catch myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, do I want to get Botox now? Is it time? But I'm not, like, I don't know. I have to catch myself really and think, hold on, this isn't me. Take a step back.
Yeah.
And ground myself again, because I could do a lot.
I even, like, I've gotten a DM from a dude one time who was like, hey, you want some, like, free Botox in Beverly Hills? And not gonna lie, I was like, okay, no, I'm not gonna do that. For a minute, I was like,
Yeah. There's a lot of, I've noticed, I'm seeing more ads and stuff lately about surgical procedures and stuff, and free this, free that, looking for content creators for liposuction or whatever. It's pretty crazy.
What are some things you do to take care of yourself and stay sane?
Exercise is a big one. I love fitness. My gym is my sanctuary, and I go to an amazing gym. I love it.
Oh, I know,
yeah. it's really like what makes me want to stay in LA. But yeah, just I don't know, working out and like eating clean, and I really like to cook at home, which even though on my like Instagram I post all the food that I eat when I go out, or like I'll do deals with restaurants or whatever, and I love doing that as well, but there's nothing better than making my own home cooked meal. And I also love to paint, so I'll go and like just have a day of painting, maybe a Sunday or whatever it is, and just kind of go back to what I really enjoy and like get off my phone and get off of, you know, my work mode and just kind of take it easy.
Yeah, that's so nice. I feel like too that's a good thing to like come back to your inner child, just like paint a little bit and get creative.
Yeah,
that's fun. Do you do like specific workout classes, or do you just do stuff on your own?
I do workout classes and stuff on my own, both. But yeah,
fun stuff.
All fitness I love. It just feels so good, especially when like after 20 minutes of a workout you kind of get that serotonin hit.
100%.
And it becomes like, I don't know, it's like an ecstasy feeling.
It is.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's hard to replace that, I think.
Yeah. I don't think there is any replacement for it. Yeah.
The only replacement I think I've ever found, or something that can kind of correlate, is being on set and like after booking something and going through the process of auditioning, the callback, and then finally booking it.
Yeah.
I think that feeling is the same kind of ecstasy when you're like on set and you finally made it, which is sick, but
it's like the high of like accomplishing something, I feel like, or doing something so difficult and then it paying off.
Yeah.
Is there one thing, Rose, that you wish people knew about you, that you feel like maybe people might assume that's wrong, or anything like that?
I think that I'm extremely hardworking, and I've always been like a go-getter, and I don't really give up. So no matter what happens to me, and a lot has happened in my life, no matter where, you know, what kind of rejection or whatever happens, I will always keep pursuing. And this is a really great motto: passionate persistence produces progress without impertinence. That's something I keep in the back of my brain all the time.
Yeah.
So like if I get rejected from a job, or if I get rejected from a client or whatever, I just say passionate persistence produces progress without impertinence. And it keeps me going.
Yeah.
So
no, I love that. It's having like a abundance mindset, like what's meant for you finds you, that kind of thing. As long as you're working hard doing the things. Yeah.
And life is hard. Life is really, really hard.
Life is hard, and then doing this business in Los Angeles, I feel like adds another element to that.
Yeah. But I'm really proud of like me and all the people around me, all the actors, you, and everybody that is pursuing it and has been able to like book work and stay somewhat normal, because it's not easy. And it's cool to have like that community of people that kind of all get it.
Yes.
So because if you try to explain it to people in your hometown or like your family or whatever, they
feel like an alien.
Will never understand.
I know. I quite literally, as like sad as this sounds, sometimes it's hard for me to talk with people from back home because my life is so different than theirs. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like if they're like, what'd you do today? I'm like, oh, I did a photo shoot and like a self-tape. It's like, what
is that?
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I just got back. I went to Australia for a week because I was only allowed to stay a certain amount of time in Indonesia before I had to renew my visa again. So I had to leave, and I went back to Australia because it's close, and I saw my family and friends. And my friends all have babies and all have husbands, and they're just in a different world. And so like me explaining what I do and where I live, it's so foreign. It really is like being in another planet.
It is. I know. It's interesting. I know we like relate on some of the like basic foundational things, but I know our lives are just so different from, which you're right is why that's one of the best things about being in LA, I feel like, is we're all kind of live similar lives here. I also want to circle back to what you said. I know we were talking about off camera how it's like sometimes you say you're an actor and a model and like people don't take you seriously, but I feel like when you are an actor and a model, I feel the same as you. When somebody tells me that, I actually feel a lot of respect for them, especially if I know they've done stuff, because I know how hard this business is. So it's like when somebody tells me that's what they're pursuing, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah, I think
really cool.
As an actor and model, that you feel that.
Yeah.
But if you're like a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, or
For
whatever
sure.
else, you'll look at us like you guys have no brains kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially being a woman in the industry,
100%,
I find like a lot of men either see us as sex symbols or, you know, stupid.
Right. She's just making money off her looks. Like,
Yeah.
She's just kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's not easy to kind of push through that stigma because it's always gonna be there.
It is
no matter what.
100%. I know. And you can even have all of the things, have a business and have all of these things to back it up, and still like men will be men sometimes too.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's where it comes back to like your self-worth has to come from within. You can't be constantly trying to prove yourself to other people because there are just some people that are, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. I actually have a story. When I first moved to LA, I used to get invited to a lot of like interesting events because I would go out 7 days a week. Like my purpose here was to meet the right people.
Yeah.
And I did whatever it took to go out and get into the right events and like just meet the people that were gonna perhaps give me a job or whatever. I was just so like starry-eyed. So I met some pretty interesting people in the beginning, and they brought me to my very first Hollywood Hills mansion party. And that was like a dream come true for little Rose, who was driving up the hills of like Hollywood Hills, and I finally got to this beautiful home. There was like mermaids in the swimming pool, and like fake ones, but
Yeah.
And there was just like so many interesting people, and there was women walking around with like feathered boas, and it was such like a Hollywood movie scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed up, and I was very innocent and young, and I didn't know like half of what I knew now. And I remember meeting the owner of the house, who's a famous director. I won't say the names, but he kind of welcomed me in and was like, "Oh, do you want a drink? Have a seat. Let's chat. Like, what do you want to do? What are you here for?" And I had a very strong Australian accent at that time, and I was like, "Well, I'm trying to be an actress." And little did I know, he saw that as another opportunity, like an opportunity to see what he could do with me. And I remember so vividly, he put his hand on my knee and he said, "What are you willing to do for this industry?" And it hit me. I like went stone cold, and I thought, okay, this is exactly what Hollywood is made up of. Like, this is what I do not want to be involved in. And I quickly got up and I left, and I went home and I cried, and I remember just feeling so uncomfortable. And I said, I don't think I want to be in this industry. Like, it's not for me. And it took me a lot, like maybe 3 or 4 months, because after that I completely gave up and I did something else.
Wow.
I started working at a restaurant, actually. But yeah, I didn't see that until that moment, and then I realized, okay, that's how Hollywood is really built.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because you hear stories, it's not funny, it's sad, but you hear stories like that, and I remember when I would hear stuff about that before moving in LA, I was like, oh, maybe that's fake. But then you get into it and you have weird things happen, and you hear it directly from your friends, and it's like, oh my god, that Hollywood stigma is still there.
It's still there.
And I wish I could say I thought it would go away, but I don't know, because again, not to blame it all on men, but like men will be men, and they're just like, and they will use their power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so sad, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, but...
Yeah, and it's a shame, like, the Me Too movement was such a big deal, and it was there was a lot of hype and stuff around it, but I don't see any change really being done. When you really piece it apart, like, there's still the same things going on.
100%.
So.
You know what it is? I feel like in the like A-lister actors, maybe the Me Too affected them. But most of us actors are not A-listers, and I still think it very much goes on especially at the beginning stages of your career.
Yeah.
And it's still not okay there, and it's like, just because we don't have as many lights on us, like a young girl from Australia trying to be an actress here, just because you don't have a huge following, you're not an A-list actor, that doesn't make it okay that people are doing that.
Yeah. And even on set, I don't know about you, but I've had some real weird experiences that have never really been talked about, that I realize now, like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, that was not okay.
Yeah.
Or what he said to me was not okay. or me being by myself late at night when, you know, we finish our shoot and the shuttle bus has to take us back to the car park. Like, even the driver of the shuttle or like the PA or the assistants were weird. They were weird men that made me feel uncomfortable on set. And it's, I don't know, there's a fine line that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, there is. I know. And the sad part of it too is I feel like so many of us, it happens when we're like young and new to LA. I, again, like when I first moved here, I was doing everything as well. Craigslist gigs, parties in the Hollywood Hills. Like, I ended up a lot of weird places doing a lot of weird things. And again, at the time, I think too, I was in such survival mode that I didn't even realize some of it was weird. But then I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, I did a sex scene with no intimacy coordinator, and like my top came off, and like that's really effed up. And I just like think back on these things, and I'm like, it's sad because it's like I hope change will come, but I think stuff like this, people talking about it, I think that's good because hopefully, ideally, young girls out there who might be moving to LA can come with, you know, more, come ready armed. For it. Yeah, no,
Put
truly.
your armor on.
Truly.
Yeah.
Can I ask, after that encounter, what made you decide to continue pursuing acting? Did you just kind of realize, okay, that's just like one part of the business, there's still so many beautiful aspects of it, or what kind of switched for you?
Yeah, so I took some time and I worked for, you know, this restaurant or whatever, and I did some other jobs, and I realized like acting is something that I wanted so bad, that not so bad to where I would do something weird, but I wanted to work at it and I wanted to see how far I could take it. And so I actually had an audition for a short film, and that was an amazing experience, and I had incredible people on set, and it brought me back to Santa Barbara where we filmed it for 5 days, and it made it into the Texas International Film Festival, and there was like 5 different festivals.
Wow.
And I won like the actress award for that. And so that gave me that confidence again. I thought to myself, okay, it's not all about, you know, being sexually harassed to make it. I can do it. Yes, it's a smaller scale, but there's still potential. And so I kind of like built the confidence back into it, and I just kept going after that.
Coming back to the love of the art form. You know what else makes me especially disgusted is that those men, they're just running their mouths too. Like, I think even if you were to like sleep with him or whatever, I don't think
nothing will come out of it.
Nothing will come out of it. And if anything, they lose more respect for you, I think, if you're willing to just do that sort of thing. So it really, there's no benefit from it.
I don't think it would be worth it at all. But, you know, there's a lot of actresses that have done that, and I know firsthand stories from actresses that I've met that have done that, and they've made it, or they've gotten the role they want because of that. And I don't know what happens after that, but do they feel okay with themselves? Probably not. And to me, I feel like it's more important to have a sane mind and feel good within myself than to get a job. Like, it's not worth it.
It's not.
Because at the end of the day, we have to live with ourselves.
It's true.
So what are you willing to live with?
That's a good point. I know. I don't want to be a shell of myself. I love this business, but it's not worth it. Even in terms of like, there are also just weird gigs, yes, to get far in the business, but also to make money in LA. Like some of the things that men will try to get you to do, even things like atmosphere modeling, things can get so weird so quick on those gigs in terms of men being able to pay you for things. But just know your morals at the end of the day. Okay, Rose, we are coming to a close here. Do you have any advice to actors out there? Like one final word.
Yeah, I would say if you are trying to pursue this industry, make sure you are well educated, have a business mindset, do your research, ask for advice from people that are in the business side of things, not so much the craft, because I feel like anybody can kind of do the craft. It's one way or another. We all have an actor within us, because we all are actors living in this world. But if you can hone in on the business and really figure out ways to overcome like just the artistic side of things and work the business, then you will be very successful, and you won't be a starving artist like a lot of people are in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I know, that's a stigma that I hate. You don't have to be a starving artist, and I don't know why everybody thinks that you do, but like you can enjoy your everyday life.
Yeah.
And also be an actor.
Be business savvy to not being a starving artist.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So speaking of businesses, one of the other things our lovely Rose has done recently, and actually you've been doing kind of business ventures for a couple of years now, but do you want to talk about your most recent one, why you decided to start it, things like that?
Yeah, so I started my own staffing agency for events, and I collaborated with a business partner, and we are staffing for all, private events, luxury events, stuff like that. And I worked in the event space for a while, so that's how we met. Mm-hmm. And I learned what there's a missing link, and like especially with how well people treat their staff and payment and stuff like that, which is something that I'm trying to pretty up a little bit, and I want to pay my staff better, and I want to treat them better and just make sure that their experience is a little more smoother, because over the years my experiences in events have not been as smooth as they should be. So that's kind of where the agency comes in and separates themselves. It's been an interesting journey, and so far so good.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you what has been the most difficult part of starting a business?
The business side.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like LLCs, taxes, like
all the little things.
Registering, and just the accounting side of things is very difficult. So my business is called Sunset Staff, and you can check out sunsetstaff.com for all your staffing needs.
And they're hiring, I believe, right?
Yes, we're hiring. And
I'm gonna apply, and hopefully you'll let me in, but we can work some events together, guys.
There you go.
Event work is a great side hustle, I think, for any actor or model. You meet people, it's pretty good pay, it's usually fun, you end up in cool places meeting cool people, so yeah. Okay, so we always end out with a fast frisky 5 segment, Rose. Are you ready? It's 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You kind of already said this earlier, but your favorite quote? I don't know if it's the P's.
Passionate persistence produces progress without impertinence.
I love that. Did you come up with that or somebody else?
Actually, my dad did.
Okay, yeah.
Since I was a little girl, so I kind of learned what it meant now as I'm older, and I'm utilizing it in day-to-day practice.
What is something in LA that you love that not a lot of people know about?
That don't know about me or know about LA?
Like a place or something fun.
I love the Edition rooftop. The Edition Hotel on Sunset Boulevard has a view of the entire LA, and it is so peaceful, and it's very quiet, and you can just go and sit up there. You don't have to order anything, and they're very chill. Maybe have a coffee or something to be nice.
Consider it.
Or have some food. It's a great place to eat too, but it's just really beautiful up there. To me, it's like the perfect LA secret spot.
Oh, love that. Edition. Do you have a favorite line in a show or movie that comes to mind?
I totally paused. It's from Legally Blonde.
Love that. That was perfect. Pickles, yay or nay?
Yay.
You like pickles? Yeah. Recent obsession of yours?
Traveling.
Yeah. That's always been an obsession of yours, though, but I'm sure fresh on the mind. Anything else you want to leave our viewers with, Rose?
If anybody has questions or wants to know, like, anything nitty-gritty about the industry, I'm very open, and I'm more than happy to share my experiences and help other people, because I don't like this whole like secrecy thing that people try to hide about the industry, and I want people to know what they should know. So hit me up.
Love that. We appreciate you, Rose. All of her everything will be linked below, her IMDb, her reel, her socials, so definitely check it all out. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.